Hey guys, Ranger Joe's here. In today's video, I want to discuss the revealed trailer from Battlefield 1. Yep, Battlefield 1, not Battlefield 5, not a Bad Company 3. So we're getting a reset, and I understand why, since I see Call of Duty's next installment is going to be Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, which looks pretty much like what probably a Battlefield 5 would be. I'm a little let down, yes, because I was really psyched to get a updated and newer 2142 with today's graphics and gameplay. But understand why the reset now. And not only back to 1942, we're going back to 1918, back to World War I. And in this trailer, it has a lot of stuff in there. So we're going to go over a few of these things. I know a lot of the other guys have been talking about what's going on, and it's pretty obvious, but we're going to talk about it anyway. As you see, we got the tanks. Not sure which version it is, whether it's the Big Willie or the Liberty tank at the British Mark V, but it's their big 10-ton tanks. Kind of slow. Most all the tanks back then only went 1 to about 4 to 5 miles an hour, which is quite slow, very slow to today's. We didn't see any French FT-17s, but I'm sure they're in there because there were a lot of those used. And there was also the Ford M1918s. They may be in there as well. And they said that each tank and each plane and different vehicles are going to handle differently and work differently, which that's good. But it does bring forth the question is balance. How's that going to work out? Because even though you have different vehicles now in Battlefield 4 or 3 or whatever, they still function the same even though they look different. They're just skinned different. So we're going to go through this real quick. There is a lot going on in this video. You can see it goes from the desert, it goes in the Italian mountains. There's trench warfare, and everybody thinks of trench warfare when you think of World War I because that was the bulk of it. I don't know if it's going to be maybe in Gallipoli, if you're familiar with that. If you've ever seen that movie, there is a movie named the same, Gallipoli. It was a Australian movie, came out in, I believe, 1981. And Mel Gibson's in it. It's not a masterpiece, but it is a pretty good movie and shows what trench warfare was all about. So that was pretty good. But if you know, World War I started pretty quickly, actually. And because of alliances, there was a Serbian nationalist secret military group called the Black Hand. And they assassinated Franz Ferdinand, who was the Archduke of Austria-Hungary. And that just threw things into a tailspin, and everybody started going at it. But if you know, the Germans were aligned with the Ottomans, which is today's Turkey. And I'm not quite sure what or who's going to be aligned. A lot of the Arab countries were aligned as well with the Ottomans and the Germans. So it's going to be pretty epic. It looks great. We're going to talk about these things. We have tanks and biplanes. And the biplanes have gunners on the back, which is going to be pretty cool. The triplanes, which are the Fokkers. Yeah, not the movie, the plane. A lot of melee weapons, and I'm a little skeptical because the melee in Battlefield 4 totally, it's broken. But they have the shovel, and they have swords, and they have trench maces and things like that. And there's going to be bayonets for weapons. And if you can see horses, and they talked about the horses, but I really find it hard to believe we're going to be riding around on horses. I guess it's possible. A lot of these things could be in single player compared to multiplayer, but we'll see. It's not going to be easy shooting from a horse, that's for sure. The flamethrowers, it looks pretty cool, and I highly doubt it's going to be like the Vietnam DLC, the Bad Company 2, to where everybody could run around with it if that's what you wanted to choose. I would imagine it's going to be more like Battlefield 3 or 4, where it's going to be a pickup item off the battlefield. There was also a shot here of an anti-tank rifle right there where that tank's running. You see that guy off to the left. That's an anti-tank rifle. That's not a sniper rifle. But there are sniper rifles going to be in the game. There's going to be 4 classes. It's kind of reminiscent of Bad Company 2. The Assault class, the Medic, which would be, I guess, the Engineer as well. And then the Support class and the Scout, which would be Recon. Now, you know, in Bad Company 2, the Medic ran as actually the Support class, not the Engineer class. But that's pretty cool. There's going to be mustard gas in this. Stick grenades for the tanks. If you noticed on some of the belts, they have like a stick grenade and it has like 5 or 6 grenades attached to it. That's to use against the tanks. SMGs, protective masks, or what you would hear people call gas masks, because of the mustard gas that was used back then. Terrible, terrible. There's an armor train. That looks pretty awesome. Battleship. I don't know if you're going to be able to actually shoot from it or if you're going to... I don't know. We'll find out. It could be just from the single-player mode. Shotguns. There's artillery it shows in here. Pistols, sniper rifles. There's also going to be Zeppelins. So I don't know how that's going to work. I know there were some that were armored. Not armored per se, but armed. Had guns on them. And then there's the dude there wearing the armor. So there's a kind of a blending from the old days of armor. And they had armor like that, but it was kind of useless, rendered useless pretty quickly due to the caliber and the strength of weapons of the day. So there you have it. The biggest thing I worry about is balance. World War I was pretty brutal, and a lot of infantry only. Other than the airplanes and tanks, and there weren't that many. Actually, at the end of the war, England only had 8 tanks left in their whole army the last few days of the war, so they were just about out. And they had, between the U.S. and England making them, there was thousands of them. Germany was way behind. And if you know where the name of tank comes from, it was actually because England was trying to hide the fact that they were building a vehicle to go through the trenches that was armed like that. They named it tank, so it would be disguised, and they were hoping that Germany would only think of it as being a vehicle that would carry water on the battlefield and not actually a armament. So that was pretty cool. Little tidbit there for World War I and why it's called a tank. So there you have it. Hope you like this video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And have a good one. We'll catch you in the next video. And we'll see you on the battlefield. See ya.